All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thank you once again for taking the time out to join us on this wonderful Sabbath to continue the true understanding of the Ten Commandments. We are in part 5, the House of Shiloh Ministries, who sponsors this, and I am your presenter, Brother Andrew Bradley. And we're going to continue in our lesson where we're examining the last 6 commandments, love your neighbor, and we are on commandment number 8. All right, and the commandment number 8, we're going to start it off with thou shalt not steal. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, I'm going to say this right offhand. There is a physical and spiritual side to all these commandments. All right? Keep that in mind. So we have the first Hebrew word, ganab, to thieve. By implication, deceive. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I found that surprising when I noticed that. Carry away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen that happen. Secretly bring.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. It sounds opposite, doesn't it? Steal away.
Mm-hmm.
Seen that happen too.
Mm-hmm.
Get by stealth. Well, that is not hard to understand. But the fact I highlighted deceit because that one was a big surprise to me. And we'll get into that later. Now let's look at the Paleo-Hebrew of ganab. Let's look at the true Hebrew of ganab.
Mm-hmm.
Steal, thief, theft. We have the gemel, foot, to walk or carry. The rich man who chases after the poor man. Now, we know that to steal, it's a negative thing, right? Thou shalt not steal.
Mm-hmm.
So like I told you earlier, rich doesn't always mean good. Rich is a man of authority, someone that's in a higher place or a higher position as well, or in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I was going to rob somebody and I had the gun, I will be the person in the position of power. Even though that person might be rich and all that stuff, I'm the one with the power because I have the ability to kill. All right. Then you have Nun, the seed is the Torah, which, when opened up to reveal the inside, sprouts new life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then you have Bet, house, tent, tabernacle, symbolizes Elohim's house. And of course, that is us, the Torah believers.
Mm-hmm.
That's us. We are the house. So let's put this all together, the paleo meaning.
Mm-hmm.
The rich man, the man in the position of power, pursues the poor man who has the Torah, the righteous man, and removes the seed out of the house, the poor man. All right?
Mm-hmm.
He removes them. Doesn't sound right, does it? It doesn't sound like normal stealing.
Correct.
It doesn't sound like normal stealing. So, and we're gonna explain it a little further. Okay? So let's go to the next slide. So this commandment has 3 meanings. All right, and this one is pretty straightforward because it's such a brief, easy, forward commandment. Steal or theft, which is 1. Deceive, to cause to believe what is not true.
Mm-hmm.
To mislead.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we just learned from the paleo understanding, to remove Torah from those who were or should obey Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, and I don't even know if I have to ask the next questions. Does the church obey the 8th commandment? And we're talking about the modern day church, not historical, because historically it did a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We can honestly say it doesn't necessarily steal. No, you can't really say that with all of them these days either. But let's say this church does not steal physically. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't steal. Do they deceive? Willfully or not, they do. Because they mislead, willfully or not. If I told a person that driving their car on a flat tire will not do any permanent damage because I'm thinking it's just a rim, but by the time they get home and put it in the shop, they have to replace the side, that front end, part of the front end as well, not just the rim, the brakes, the bushings, the shock, because I misled them. Unwillingly, I did that. I'm still accountable for misleading him. The same principle goes to the church. They may not teach Torah and mislead, saying Torah is not needed, but they're still deceiving many. Right? We're following everybody?
Yes.
And has not the church removed Torah from those who should be reading, learning, obeying it? Have not they done that and still do it? They still do it. Because try to bring Torah in the church. See what they do. They'll remove you. Because you will be the Torah, right? Yes. They're going to kick your butt right out that church. Don't bring that stuff. Don't make me a Judaizer. Oh, that's exactly what I was told by one person. I don't want to get caught up in that. It took me all my life to get out of that. Self-righteousness. No love for y'all like you think. Going up there and do your dancing and shouting like you think you know what's going on. So no, the church still does that as well. So now we can answer the next question. Does the church obey the 8th commandment? The church has deceived many to not follow Torah. Through its early history, even current history, the church persecutes anyone who practices Torah. I get that now. Right now. I get shamed, talked about, Antichrist.
That's true.
And then I had one recently tell me I didn't know what I was talking about. It's very clear that he not destroyed. The guy didn't use destroy, but he ended the law. I was like, he doesn't even know what the law means to say that. Most people do not understand the implications of the law, because if the law was no longer needed, he would have never had to need to satisfy its requirement in the first place. He literally came here to be obedient to the law. Think about that. He came here to satisfy the requirement of the law. So how could it be gone? It doesn't make sense. So we must come to this conclusion. The church does not keep the 8th commandment as well. O for 8. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to refer back to your analogy about the car. The individual that listened to the advice that you gave them, they incurred a significant financial loss.
Right.
And that loss was a monetary loss. So because they followed your directions, you caused them to lose money. So that's another form of stealing. The money is taken now out of their bank, out of their pocket, by what it is that you've said, how you directed them. So you stole from them, and by giving them that erroneous advice.
Then the point you're also making is this thing. In Deuteronomy 28, he says in the first 15 verses, all the blessings of obedience.
Yes.
So when I cause someone to disobey, they lose those blessings. And thus, that's stealing as well.
They pick up from 15 going forward.
They pick up, which is nasty. I won't mention those. We'll talk about a little bit about that later on, too. When we get to the body, the bride, and all that. So, anybody has any questions? And do we clearly understand how number 8 is a no-go for the church?
Yes, we do.
We understand.
All right. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the next one. We're going to talk about 9. I love this one. Oh, I love this one. I guarantee you didn't see this one coming. All right. Exodus 20:16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. We're going to have to analyze bear false witness. Okay? So we can get a good understanding. So let's start with bear. Na. Properly to eye or to heed. That is, pay attention. By implication, to respond. By extension, to begin to speak. But specifically, to sing, shout, testify, announce. All right? And thinking of that now, let's look at the Paleo Hebrew. And that makes sense, seeing the head at the end of this word. Because every time I see that, I'd be like, behold, announce. But we have the ga, the I, or to know, or the twisted cord, the fountain of wisdom, color, divine light. All right. Then we have the Nun. We've talked about the seed. Nu, continue. The seed is Torah. And we got the breath, Hey, or Ruach of Elohim. Look, spiritually see. Reveal, behold. So, Bear means the divine light, all right, which is the eye, coming out the eye. The divine light coming from Torah that provides revelation, the spiritual understanding. That's what this means right here. So let's keep this in mind. We're going to have to hear all this out so we can put it all together. Mm-hmm. Okay? So you might not fully get it yet, but we're going to put it all together. All right? We're following me?
Following you.
All right, let's go to the next one. Next slide, please. And we're going to go to false now. Mm-hmm. All right, shakar or shakur, an untruth, by implication, a sham.
Haven't heard that word in a while.
I know, me neither. Without a cause, deceitful, falsehood, or falsely, fiendly, liar, lie, lying, vain thing, wrongfully. So let's look at the Paleo Hebrew. Shakur, lie, false or untrue words meant to deceive. Mm-hmm. So let's look at the shin, the two front teeth. Sharp, press, ivory, cliff, double, second, divine power, fire, overcomer, crown, tooth, divine revelation and essence, divine corruption, falsehood, falsehood. Kuf, sun at the horizon, the shell around the Ruach of Elohim. Also means monkey, to mimic. Pride, unholiness, beast. And now we talked about the shell earlier, right? Where the Sabbath does what to that shell? Cracks it open. Well, if you have unholiness, that means something's not there. The Sabbath's not there. That shell means it's closed in. So if Yahuwah is not there because the shell's closed, most likely you're not holy. You're not righteous. If you put it all together. All right, putting it all together. Resh, head, beginning, first. Man can choose to learn or refuse to learn. Hardens his heart, which is the source of evil. We talked about that. So falsehood, the falsehood or the lie told by a man is unholy and evil. That's what false is, unrighteous. All right. So we got the bear, we got the false. Now let's talk about witness, and then we're going to put them together in one definition. Okay? So let's continue. Witness. Boy, this was a surprise. Ed or ed. Concretely a witness. Abstractly testimony. Specifically a recorder. That is prince. Prince? Like, what's a prince? That's what I thought when I said, how does this have anything to do with witness? But now you got to think of a culture of people. Who would be the witness? Who would they go to? A person of authority who should be in a righteous place because they're Hebrews. These are law-abiding people. You're not going to be a prince and mislead your people. I wouldn't do that. Yahuwah's going to hold you accountable. He didn't play with the kings that were disobedient, right? So any leader that was a leader of the Hebrews was a person who was righteous in Torah as well. A prince, a guard, a captain. That's what this word will mean. We'll talk more about it. That's just the brief. So let's talk about the Paleo Hebrew. Ed, witness, an event or a person's testimony recounting another event or person. Or the repeating of an account. Testify, protest, witness, record, charge, take, admonish. So you have a picture of the eye, a picture of the door, which means see the door, as coming to a tent of a meeting and entering in where an event repeats again and again. So the idea here is to help you understand that there's an event that's being seen, that someone will see, that someone could speak on that someone will see it most over and over again, as if you're in an authority, like a judge, like a judge in a courtroom. They see the same things over and over again. They reside over the same things, and they use the law to judge by. But they use man's law, so of course it's not righteous. Now imagine being in a righteous community of Torah believers. That person is going to judge by Torah, and he's going to judge something he sees repeatedly over and over again because that's the position he's in to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're following, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
The judge sees the same act over and over.
Right.
Just different players.
Different players, exactly. And it's not always comes to the same conclusion. Someone's right, someone's wrong. This person that came in may have been accused and such and so forth, like you see with man's law. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It's the same act, different people. Mm-hmm. All right. We're good online, right?
Could you go back to
yes.
Screen?
Okay, we have a comment on the previous screen. Okay, go ahead.
I was noticing that to bear false witness and event a person's testimony. Okay, so it's the screen before this. We'll repeat one. Right there. Let's see. Implication. It was the screen that said first you must heed. And then it was showing the order and order you must receive before you become a witness.
You're too far off.
I think it was not. Where's the first page that you spoke on?
Can go back to the first.
Okay. But the point I was trying to make is that before you become a witness, first you have to heed to the truth. Whether you have false witness here, but just become a witness. Period. That you have to bear false witness. The witness have to have some truth. It takes them back to the tree of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
To know how to make the lie.
There you go. To make the lie.
That's so true. That's a great connection. Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm. That tells you then that every one of us are potentially able to do this wrong. So we have to have the source of what is truly righteous in us. Right. To be a true witness, a true prince, a true captain, a true guard, you have to have Torah. You'll never be able to be righteous judge anyway. I don't care how great you are according to man's standards. Mm-hmm. But we don't live dedicated to him. We live dedicated to Yah.
Which means that when you're in the courtroom, the judge himself is a false witness against you.
Mm-hmm. Automatic.
That's a good one.
Automatic.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Right.
Automatic. Right. You're coming in there being the seed carrier, the Torah carrier.
Right.
You're the one righteous. And you got man's law sitting here trying to judge you. That is true.
False witness is the one that's doing the judging.
Yes.
So Paul says no man can judge him.
That's right. He said in what? He said, do not let no one judge you in your meat, in your drink, in your holy days, in your Sabbaths, except those who are of the body of Christ. I had a guy tell me, quote to me, that what are you talking about? Here's the scripture here, the very one I just quoted. He quoted the English version and says, the body is of Christ. Therefore, we don't have to do all these laws and stuff. What are you talking about? It's clear. I said, you don't know your translations. That's the problem you and I are having. So read your English all you want and depend on something that's, and so forth. So you have to understand the true translations. Get the most accurate translation you can, which is going to be for the renewed covenant. New Testament is the Greek, and understand what words are not there that shouldn't be there. I mean, that's important. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and go back and keep going. All right. Let's see. That's it right here. That's it. So let me get to it. So now we've talked about witness, bear false, and we started talking about witness where we discovered the word prince. So let's examine prince. And we see it right below the word witness. And the Paleo Hebrew for this word was nagid. And that took some effort to find. There's a lot of different terms referencing prince in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And this is honorable, ruler, prince, captain, leader.
Mm-hmm.
So a position of authority, not necessarily the word prince. And it's from the word nagad, to announce. Look at this. Expose, predict, explain,
See that.
praise, to tell, explain, inform. Frequently a person who has witnessed something.
Okay.
All right. So the Paleo Hebrew definition for this is tell, to give an account to another.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this word prince is in here. And it's the noon, the seed. New continued. See is the Torah, like we've said, when open sprouts new life. And Gemel, foot, walk, carry. The rich man chasing after the poor man.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Dalet, we've talked about it. The door, dangle, veil, weak, poor, poverty. The poor man who's helped through the door by the rich man, the person of authority, the prince.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a prince is a witness because he is a righteous person of authority who can witness in truth through Torah and lead a person into righteousness or to righteousness. The correct door. There's many doors. You just want it to be the right one. So a person of true authority and righteousness, the prince, the guard, the captain, the leader, will be a righteous witness because he'll use Torah. And that's in our lives as well. I'm not just talking about as a leader to of a group of people, but I'm talking about when you interact with your spouse or your friends or at work. Should I pick up that $5 that I saw fall on the floor out of James' pocket? Or should I ignore what's going wrong on my job and not tell when I'm the witness to it? This is how you become a righteous witness. All right? Now we have the bear, the false, and the witness. Everybody has, follow me. We're all together on this, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Let's move to the next side and let's talk about witness, the Paleo Hebrew for witness. All right, we're going to get into this. So we have the Ayin, I, fountain of wisdom, divine light, salvation, insight, idolatry. One can only have true sight when he can see the divine light coming from Torah. Man, that's a nutshell right there. And then you got the Vav, the tent peg, the connection. I love the Vav. That's the easiest one for me. Tent peg, add, secure, hook, the connection. Liquid light connecting heaven to earth, future, and past. And the Dalet, door, dangle, veil, weak, poor, poverty. The poor man helped through the door by the rich man. So what does witness really mean in Paleo? A righteous witness must live in Torah, which allows him or her to lead persons, to see person to righteousness, truth, justice, through the door that leads to righteousness. The Torah allows him to see this. So a witness sounds very similar to definition to what we just read in Prince, right?
Right.
That's why they were in the same definition. Two different words line up very similar to each other. Very similar. All right, we're going to continue and go to the next slide. And now let's put it all together. Bear false witness. The divine light coming from Torah that provides revelation. That's bear, spiritual understanding or sight. False, a lie told by man is unholy and evil, which is unrighteous. Witness is a righteous person of authority who can witness in truth through Torah and lead a person to righteousness, justice, and truth. A witness must live in Torah, which allows him or her to lead a person to righteousness, truth, or justice through the correct door. Meaning of bear false witness. Then let's sum it up. Put it all together. Revelation that is a lie and or unrighteous, which results in misleading a person to the wrong door away from Torah. That's bare false witness.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about Torah. He's talking about his standard of righteousness. Yahuwah's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't you dare lie and lead someone away from Torah. And that's not that's not hard to understand. For example, if I am talking to one of my friends and I tell him, only on the I'm gonna use a ridiculous example. Only on the Sabbath you can eat pork.
Mm.
All right, only on the Sabbath. So eat as much bacon as you want on the Sabbath. And I convinced him. I just led him away from Torah.
Mm-hmm.
I just was a false witness because I'm supposed to be a witness to Torah. I'm falsely claiming what is righteous, and it's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you could be doing this. You can do this in your daily walk if you're not sure or careful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do not mislead anyone away from the truth. Purposely or unpurposely, you could do this.
Mm-hmm.
We got that? Everybody's good with that one?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
So the church does not only bear false witness, the church is a false witness.
Yes. They do it and they are it.
They are it.
Mm-hmm.
They're the false witness against the true Messiah and his laws.
And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. All right. So, anybody have any questions so far?
None.
All right.
No question.
Let's go to the next
No,
slide.
we're good.
Okay, good. Let's go to the next slide and talk about neighbor. Excuse me. Neighbor. Raya, Paleo Hebrew for this word particularly. It's the resh, head, beginning, first, chief, man can choose to learn or receive the breath of revelation. So if you're a neighbor, a person who believes in Torah,
Mm-hmm.
you are a person who has chosen to receive the breath of revelation. All right? You've chosen that. Nun, I, the fountain of wisdom, sheep, divine light, salvation. Meaning, a neighbor is a person who chooses to learn from the Ruach of Elohim
Mm-hmm.
and who can see the divine light of Torah. If you don't have Torah, you are not a neighbor. That's what it says. That's what it's meaning. All right? Yes, ma'am.
It says in the scriptures, we've been called to come out of her.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're coming out of her, then we're forming a community. And if we're forming a community, it's a community of like-minded people, right? So that means everyone that's on our left or right or before us or behind us are people of like-mindedness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're considered our neighbors. So this is why we should not do these things to them.
No.
They're going to be the people that are like-minded to us, like we
No.
are,
And,
right?
and you're right. When you think of the purpose that Yah has planned for his community,
Mm-hmm.
to lead the world, to teach the world, to be an example to the world, these commandments were directly to them because it has to address those concerns because he needs his community to be ready to address those things. And he can't have you mistreating each other to do it. It needs to be in order.
How can we must lead by example.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world readily does this.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Western culture and how they took this country and how nasty they treated each other doing it, there was no loving neighbor stuff. It was cutthroat. It was cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want that out of us. He despises that behavior, Yahuwah. So we know that a neighbor has to have Torah in them, that the true righteousness of Yah. It's just you have to have it. Everybody follows that?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to continue and put it all together. All right. Thou shalt not provide revelation or reveal. So we're going to put it all together here. As I restated, thou shalt not provide revelation or reveal something that is a lie and or unrighteous, which results in misleading your neighbor to the wrong door, away from Torah, to unrighteousness.
Mm-hmm.
Your neighbor is a person who chooses to learn from the Ruach of Elohim and who can see the divine light of Torah. All right? So does the church obey the ninth commandment? Does it teach its Torah? Nope. Does the church teach or provide revelation that pulls people away from Torah? Yes. Does the church believe in Torah at all? No. The church does not keep the ninth commandment, and thus, 0 for 9.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's going to single A. Going to single A. He's going to lose his multi-million-dollar contract, and he's going to be going back to the basics.
I'd like to read to you a scripture from Matthew chapter 23,
Mm-hmm.
verses 13 through 15. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You shut up the kingdom of Yahuwah against men, for you neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in.
Right.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You devour widows' houses, and for a pretense ye make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. And my favorite one, the last one. Woe unto you, the scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you compass the sea and land to make one a proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourself.
Yeah.
So that is bearing this false witness to lead them to the wrong door.
Yep. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't think of it that way.
That's true.
But you gotta, like I said, it's important for us to examine Yah's scriptures according to the original authors. If you don't do that, you're gonna miss so much. And we don't have time to miss anymore. We've missed plenty. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's good with Commandment 9. That's it in a nutshell.
Yes.
All righty. Well, let's get to 10. Okay?
Mm.
This is a big one. This one took a while. It's a lot of slides. Who wants to read? Let's see. Minister White, you might as well
I'll read. Exodus 20, verse 17. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Sad part is the Catholic Church has split this into two. I don't understand how they feel comfortable doing stuff like this. Such an evil group, organization. I'm sorry. And the sad part is they have people in the church, Catholic Church, who are wonderful and go after their belief with a full, whole heart. Because I know some that have. I know there are. And I know mistakes are mistakes and errors are errors. So there's no gray area when it comes to Yah, when it comes to that. So you don't have to be, you can be anybody, Church of God in Christ or anything. But the Catholic Church has just done so much damage, though. So let's talk about covet. This is going to take a little bit. All right?
Mm-hmm.
We got the kamad, the Hebrew word. To delight in. Beauty. Greatly beloved. Covet. Delectable thing. I think of Turkish delights when I think of that. From the old movie. Delight. Desire. Goodly. Lust. Be pleasant. Be precious. All right, let's go to the next one. So we know with covet, the physical meaning of the 10th commandment is clear. To desire or lust after something that is not yours. This could easily lead to someone sinning. You can want it so bad that you'll lie for it, you'll cheat for it, you'll steal it, and you will murder for it. That's obvious, right? And we can say the church doesn't do that. Well, let's say the church doesn't do that. It's done it before, but let's say it physically doesn't do that. But we know that there are spiritual, and I've been saying this the whole time. There's a spiritual meaning a spiritual part to Torah. And Paul says it in Romans 7 and 14. For we know that the Torah is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. So there is both a physical definition of the Ten Commandments, Torah, and a spiritual definition, which I've been saying all this time. And with the Ten Commandments, with the 10th commandment, though, this is especially evident. All right, so let's go to the next slide. What is the first spiritual aspect of the 10th commandment? Sister Lily, you mind reading?
First Corinthians 3:16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of Elohim, and that the spirit of Elohim dwelleth in you?
Keep it going.
Ephesians 2:22. In whom ye also builded together for an habitation of Elohim through the Spirit.
All right, keep going.
Hebrews 3:5-6. And Moshe verily was faithful in all his house, as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken after. But Mashiach, as a son over his own house, whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end.
That verse should tell you right there, salvation's not instant. He said, hold fast to the end. All right, so we know that we're not saved yet. We were saved. I tell you what we were saved from: being killed right away. I've been given some time to get this right. That's really what salvation is. Time to get it right. So I'm working on perfecting myself, being as obedient as I can as I learn this thing. And doing it happily. I really do love his Torah because I know it pleases him. So that means I got to do my best to get it right. It's not easy all the time because the world doesn't like you. They don't like you because you got Yah in you. You know? So,
like him.
That's right. They don't like him. So why would they like you? All right. So let's keep it going. We know that who is Yah's house? Us. The ones who have Torah in them. So, Sister Billy, please read this verse for me. Who is Yah's house? John 14:23-24.
Okay. Yahusha answered and said unto him, If a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him, and make our abode with him. He that loveth me not keepeth not my sayings, and the word which ye hear is not mine, but the Father's which sent me.
So, boy, there's some conditions. Yahusha says, if a man loves me, he will keep my words. And my Father will love him for that. And we will come unto him then, me and Pops, and make our abode. We're going to live with him. And he that loveth me not, keepeth not my sayings. Ooh. And the word which ye hear is not mine anyway. So if you're not keeping mine, you're really not keeping my Father's. Explain that one away, church. You do everything else. Well, I keep it. You do. What are his words? What's that word mean? Why would they use words here? This is tricky. Let's look at the word. Word. Words is logos. In here, it literally means instruction. What is instruction? See, that's why they didn't use instruction. Instruction is a very clear word for English. Why couldn't you say, he will keep my instructions? You know why? Because in the Hebrew, instructions is only one thing. Proverbs 6:23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the Torah is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life.
Yes.
So we know that Torah is instructions. So he's telling you, if a man loves me, he keeps, obeys, guards my instructions. And this is what I love about it. He says, but they're my father's. All right? Now, if is a condition, so keep is to obey or guard. So we know that you got to do something to get something. It's not free. It's not free. All right? Everybody's following.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue. So let's keep looking at let's keep going down here and keep putting it together. So what are Yahusha's instructions? Torah, John 14 and 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Yahusha supports this statement in what we just read in verse 23 and 24 in the same chapter. We just read the verses in the previous slide. So entrance to the house has a condition then, which we were just talking about the Paleo Hebrew. If you obey Torah, you demonstrate your love, right? Because we're talking about the house. And he said, I will abode with you if you obey my instructions. And if you love Yahusha, Yahuwah will love you. And if you do love him, Yahusha and Yahuwah will make their abode with you. Therefore, the house is made up of only the people who are obedient to Yahusha's Torah. Period.
Look at that.
Period. If you put it all together, I'm not twisting words. I'm just getting the definitions that are truly from the Greek and Hebraic perspective. I didn't twist or add. I just looked for the true word, and it was instructions. And instructions to the Hebrew was Torah. So he's saying, if you love me, you will keep my Torah. Put it together. All right, everybody's following.
Yes.
All right, we're going to keep it going.
Yes.
So what is the second spiritual aspect of the 10th commandment? All right, brother, are you able to read?
Yes.
Read, who is the bride of Yahusha? Yahuwah. Read Revelations for me.
Revelations 21, 9 through 12. And there came unto me one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will shew thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from Elohim, having the glory of Elohim, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Yasharel.
All right, so who is the bride according to here? He said the bride. I will show you it, the Lamb's wife, the holy city, Jerusalem. All right, we're going to continue with it. There's more to that though. Let's go to the next slide. Minister White,
Yes.
You want to read that one for me?
Sure. And I saw no temple therein, for Yahweh Elohim Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of Elohim did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. And the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there.
So the nations are in there who are saved. So in the bride is the nations who are saved.
All 12 of them.
All 12 of them. And we're going to make that known. All right, go ahead to the next slide, and I'll read this one. Revelations 21, 26 through 27. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. So that means there's no sin in there. There's no disobedience. That's what sin is.
Right.
Therefore, Torah must be related to this. So let's look at what nations mean. Ethnos, we've had this word before in previous discussions. A multitude associated or living together, a company, troop, or swarm. I thought nations was a giant group of people all over the world. A whole bunch of different peoples. Here's another one. A multitude of individuals of the same nature, genus. What's a genus then? A class, group, a kind with common attributes. Kind of like those with brown skin, for example. So ethnos does not mean all the nations of the world or a people who are not Hebrew. All right. By the way, I didn't piecemeal and pick that definition and put it together. That's what's in the definitions, the Thayer Greek lexicon, for example. So what does nations refer to? If everybody's following me, we'll keep it going. Wait a minute. The nations are the 12 tribes. How do I know that? How do I know that? We know, one, that it meant a certain people only, a group of people, not the world. So it can't be everybody. We also know that there's no sin because he said you won't find any abominations, any of that in there. So that means you have to be Torah obedient to be sinless. And that's how you're going to be saved. These are saved individuals, saved from the great tribulation, saved from being destroyed due to their sin, saved from the price of sin and death, right? The sin of death, sin and death. So let's look at the next slide. Yep. Let's look at the next slide. We've read that part already. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's look at the next slide to define the nations. So the nations are the 12 tribes. How do I know this? Revelations 22, 2 and 3. In the midst of the street of it, Jerusalem, on either side of the river was there the tree of life. Man, he's bringing I can't wait to see that tree. That tree must be amazing. Which bear 12 different fruits. What tree in this world does that? There is none. You get one fruit per tree. And yielded her fruit every month. You don't get that out of trees either. They have a season and it finishes up and comes back again. And the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse. Oh, but the throne of Elohim, sorry, I meant to get rid of that, God, and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. So you know what the nations will be doing. So the nations is the same word that we already spoke on. But what is curse? Kata nathema or kat anathema. A curse from G331. This took a little digging. Anathema. A thing devoted to Elohim without hope of being redeemed. Therefore, a person or thing doomed to destruction. Tell me who was going to save us? Who was going to save the Hebrew under their curse?
No.
There was no one. You were doomed. You were doomed. Anathema. And you've heard the Catholic Church say this.
Yes, yeah.
They use that term to disconnect you permanently from the church organization as a whole. But it's a curse. And it's a curse only done by Yah. Without hope of being redeemed. Therefore, a person or thing doomed to destruction. Everybody online following me?
I am.
Yes.
All right, let's add to it on the next slide.
I can wait.
So who were cursed and doomed for destruction then? We spoke on it a little bit, Deuteronomy 28, right? 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And here's verse 45. Moreover, oh boy, all these curses shall come upon thee and will pursue you and overtake you till you be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohim, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. All right? Those are the curses. And they did exactly that. And the only way you can be saved from that is by his hand. And if you go to the next slide, we'll add one more verse to it. Only the 12 tribes were cursed by Yahuwah, who no man could redeem or save. And he says it further in the last verse of that chapter.
Correct.
In 68, and Yahuwah shall bring thee into Egypt bondage, mitzvah, the root word is mitzvah, again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you should be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. And no man shall buy. English says buy. That's not what it was meant. It's redeem or save you. No one's going to save you. Not from these curses. No. So the bride is the ones who've been under the curses. And Yahuwah said, there will be no more curse. Not anymore. They are gone. So we know when the curses are going to be gone. When Jerusalem comes down and we are considered the bride, being saved, we are now the bride, part of his bride in his holy city, serving him, living off the tree of life. The bride is Jerusalem, inhabited by the 12 tribes. You can't be anything else. Go Google Bride of Christ and see what you find. You're not going to find much. Not like you think. You'll get terms where they reference the bride, like one of those scriptures.
It won't say all Christians.
No. They'll try to twist it. Go find it and see what you get. You won't find specifics like that. You will find this right here is very specific. It's hard to explain this away. I mean, I'll tell you how to explain it. They only read the English. That's it. That's the only way. How dare you give me the true definitions? I don't appreciate that.
It tells you Jerusalem.
It says Jerusalem from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
Is a bride. So that means the whole world can't be it by default.
True.
All the believers can't be it by default. Then it says those who are saved of the nations.
Redeemed.
Redeemed. So that means it can't be all by default.
That's a group.
Then it says, with a group within a group, then it says no more curse. And there's only one. They're going to try to say the law of sin and death is a curse. No. He's being specific. Now, it is part of a curse. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it. But it is not there's just association coming with that. And if you want to use the law of sin and death, then all I'm going to do is tell you this. Who did he come to save? That takes care of that argument, really.
He says that came to...
I was born to save my people.
The lost sheep.
I came for the lost sheep. I came only for the lost sheep. I sent them for the lost sheep. I only come to judge those who have been given my law, statutes, and commandments. No other nation. All these scriptures say one thing, and then they jump on John 3:16. Because, again, it's a bad translation. So we know the bride is Jerusalem, inhabited by the saved of the 12 tribes.
And one more reason we know that it is them, because it tells you in Revelation that the gates of the kingdom are manned or kept, right, by the 12 tribes. And then it talks about the foundations of Jerusalem are the apostles, 12 apostles. What happened to the rest of the world?
Yep. They're right outside. They're right outside. Okay? So everybody follow so far?
Yes.
Then let's go to the next. Okay, good. Let's go to the next time. So does the church keep the 10th commandment? Let's put it all together. The church can easily satisfy the physical aspects of the 10th commandment. Don't covet somebody's stuff. But does it satisfy the spiritual aspect of the 10th commandment? Does the church wishes to change the rules of entering the house?
Oh, yes.
Or be in the house, but not teaching Torah?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does. It does that. The church wishes to change who occupies the position of the bride by misleading the world with mistranslations and false teachings, by saying all is Israel, but only the 12 tribes will occupy the city of Jerusalem, the bride of Yahusha. Therefore, does the church keep this commandment, the last one? No. 0 for 10.
They created that replacement theology.
They did. Now, I almost put that in here, but I was going to just talk on it. You're fine. It's a replacement theology. And that's what it is. You got many people here that feel that they're passionately loving Yahusha, or Jesus Christ, as they would say, and that they're part of this. But, even when I came into the truth and realized my ancestry, some of it hit me very, very, very hard. And my minister will tell you it was emotional because I learned some very hard truths that impacted me. There's some of these laws did not impact me favorably. I have to live with that. But it doesn't take away that I know the truth now, and I'm going to enjoy this. I can't guarantee where I would be because I know some things. I can't help that. I didn't make that choice either. I came into this world by no choice. It wasn't mine. But I know my truth, and I know the blessing Yah has given me because I've accepted the truth. So I'm going to live in that and let Yah sort out how he wants to later on. Because I did get hit with some harsh realities, and I just had to live with it. It's Yah's word. It's his will. So be it.
So be it.
It'll get worked out later on. He knows what I want. He knows how much I love him. He knows I can't help it either. My situation, I can't help it. I didn't choose to be born this way, or be born when and be born how. That's not my choice. So in other words, there's conditions that we cannot help, but no matter what condition we are in, if you know Torah and know truth, live in it. All right? Any questions?
Yeah.
All right. We're close to finishing this. Let's go to the next slide. Obedience is easy if we know how to listen. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Break one, you break all. Part 2. All right. Who wants to read? Let's say Lily. Read it all, please. Take your time and just read it all.
Okay. We will not summarize how simply having one aspect of the eternal truth missing. All of the 10 commandments are disobeyed. If the church does not teach Torah, every commandment is broken automatically. If you don't teach Torah and you worship as a Christian, you break the first commandment of having other Elohim before him. If you break in a Torah lawless faith, you are worshiping something else by default because you live by someone else's law. You worship on a day dedicated to a false Elohim. You break the second commandment of having images that represent Yahuwah. If you only worship any image portraying Yehovah or Yahusha, cross, stained glass windows, pictures, or statues, you break the third commandment of taking Yehovah's name in vain if you refuse to use the correct name by making his name forgotten or without power.
See that? All first 3 without Torah. You see the theme here. Any questions so far? Pretty straightforward, right? Right. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
All right. If the church doesn't teach Torah, every commandment is broken immediately. If you don't teach Torah and you worship as a Christian, you break the 4th commandment of not forgetting the Sabbath if you worship on any other day, meaning you pick a day except Sabbath. You worship according to your standards, self-righteous. This is a direct violation of Torah, by the way. Breaking Sabbath breaks all as well in itself, alone. The 4th one particularly, just the whole house falls apart when you break that. All right. You break the fifth commandment of not honoring your father and mother. You do not honor or bless your physical father or mother. That's one way. You do not receive or practice Torah, which dishonors Yahuwah. Again, no Torah. All right, let's keep it going. If you break the sixth commandment, that you should not murder. If you physically kill someone with premeditation, you guide people away from Torah, resulting in a spiritual and physical death. You break the seventh commandment of not committing adultery if you break wedlock. You apostatize or refuse to continue to obey the truth or Torah, or you cause someone else to do it. When you worship a false Elohim, you commit adultery against Yahweh Vahev. All is Taurus. All right? Let's continue. You break the eighth commandment that you should not steal. If you steal something, you deceive others away from what is truth, Torah. You remove Torah away from the people. You teach a different way. Or as what you saw with the church, historically, they pulled Torah out of our ancestors. All right? Again, Torah-less. You break the ninth commandment of bearing false witness if you lie or falsely witness against someone. You lie or mislead someone away from Torah. Unrighteousness. All right? And number 10. You break the 10th commandment of coveting what your neighbor has. If you delight, desire, or lust after what your neighbor owns, neighbors are those who believe and live in Torah. This is the physical disobedience, just like we talked about. You desire to be the house of Yah without Torah. This is the first spiritual disobedience. You desire to be the bride of Yahusha. Only those who live in Torah are destined to live in Jerusalem and be the saved ones, the bride. Only the 12 tribes, those who are saved from the 12 tribes, will dwell in the city. This is the second spiritual disobedience. The church wants to replace. Change the rules of the house by removing Torah and then saying, we all going to be in there. So you tell me, if Jerusalem's going to be in the Holy Land, and how many millions are there in Christianity? Hundreds and hundreds. No, you're talking about billions, actually. Maybe 2 or 3 billion, at least 2 billion. You name a city in this world that can hold 2 billion. And I know Yah's going to make the city himself, but it's not going to need 2 billion. There ain't 2 billion of us, period. Now those who are going to be saved in righteousness, that's a small number compared to 2 billion. All right? So we know that throughout all of these 10 commandments, the key to obedience is one thing: Yah's eternal Torah. Right?
You're right. It's 2.6 billion as of 2020.
There you go.
2.6 billion adherents.
You honestly think they're going to be 2.6? That's a whole planet of people. Come on, people. So let's sum it up. So what part of thou shalt not don't you understand? So in summary, without believing, teaching, and practicing Torah, all of the 10 commandments are broken by the church. In fact, even if you claim acceptance of Torah, you can still disobey all of them. You don't even, because you can believe in Torah and practice it and still slip up and get hot and murder somebody or something. You can still mess up, and then you're Torahless for that minute. It's all related to Torah, but you can still be a practicer and still disobey somehow. If you do not worship on Sabbath, you break them all. If you have idols or images, you cannot keep the rest correctly. If you have any Elohim before Yah, you have broken all of them as well. The link between the 10 commandments are absolute, but the church doesn't teach this. It is very true when the scripture says, James 2:10, for whosoever shall keep the whole Torah and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Therefore, it is important to understand that we must endeavor to be obedient to all, knowing if we fail in one, we fail in all.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got it?
Got it.
All right. All right.
Got it.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending again this lesson. This concludes the lesson focused on the Ten Commandments, truly understanding the Ten Commandments. Thank you so much for your time and being involved with me today. I know I don't take it lightly.
Mm-hmm. So Shabbat Shalom to everyone that's present with us. Shabbat Shalom to all of you that are live online with us, and Shabbat Shalom to those who will watch this in the near future.